Hey everyone, and welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. My name is Alex Kepsel. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Vention, and today I'll also be playing the role of moderator and host. I'm excited in a minute to introduce two of our guest speakers today who are going to be walking through a real deployment story from concept to conveyors in 6 weeks. You'll see a full story of how we went from concept to deployment with one of our clients, The Feed. The goal today is to share insights through the lens of this story. We want to help you and see if we can help with your situation as well, share tips and tricks, and also answer any questions at the end. So please drop your questions on the side panel. There should be a Q&A where you can put those and we'll get to your questions at the end. With that, I'm happy to introduce our two guests today. First, I'll welcome on stage Mathieu Desmarais, our VP of Applications Engineering at Vention. As a quick bio, abridged version, Matt leads the team that designs and deploys all our automation systems for our customers around the world. He brings over 15 years experience in automation and system integration. So he's seen a lot of firsthand, examples of what works and what doesn't work when deploying systems like this. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. A little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I'm good.
And then second, I also want to welcome on stage William Auclair, one of our automation account executives at Vention. Will works directly with manufacturers to scope and deploy automation solutions. He's been very closely involved in this particular project with The Feed and brings valuable perspective on both the business problem and solution that was provided. So Will, thank you to you also for being here today.
Thanks for the intro, Alex. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So we'll get started here in a minute. Just as a high level, I've presented and also attended a lot of webinars, and I know no one likes death by PowerPoint, so that's not what we're going to do. This is going to be more conversational, more of a panel style where we walk through and ask questions as we're talking through things. Again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to them at the end. We're going to walk through who is The Feed, why were they looking for automation, what were their challenges, what was the solution provided, what were some of the things and gotchas to watch out for in your own situation, and then tips and tricks along the way and Q&A at the end. Last housekeeping thing, and then we'll jump in, is the Q&A panel on the right. If you have any questions, there's also a document center. There's a nice overview of Vention. If you're not familiar with us, you can download, or of course, visit our website, vention.com, and get more information there. That's it for me. Let's get started. And the first question we have is just to kind of set the stage and context. This question's for Will. Who exactly is The Feed?
Yes, so The Feed, it's a fast-growing e-commerce company. It's focused on performance nutrition. So think energy product, fueling products, especially for endurance athletes, such as cyclists, runners, and those sports have been booming in the last couple of years. I'm thinking of other sports, maybe more niche, the IROC. So all those fueling strategies, they sell those supplements at the high volume. So from an operation standpoint, they run this high volume fulfillment business where the speed and accuracy from their orders are critical. So they're really customer centric, if I could say. And at the end of the day, they're not just selling products. They're not just distributing products. They're selling fast, and they have reliable delivery for their customers to have a great experience.
Got it. And with this high volume growing business, why were they looking for automation? Why did they come to us in the first place? Did they have specific goals they were trying to accomplish or challenge? What was going on in their business that led them to automation?
Yeah, so from my point of view, at least, I'm not running their business, but I think for like many fast-scaling e-commerce business, they hit a classic inflection point. So growth started to outpace their operations. So the order volumes were increasing, and their manual processes with them were increasing, especially between like the picking, packing, and shipping areas. So those areas became bottlenecks. So they weren't inefficient, but they were simply outgrowing their current setup. And the real challenge was in today's volume, it was preparing for what's coming next. So the new big marketing event. So we all know during summertime, let's say they have a big marketing stunt for the Tour de France. So they had a lot of orders picking up, and they needed to come up with faster fulfillment, and that's why automation was drove with Vention.
Do you know roughly their manual process, how many people they had doing this process before automation, or?
Yeah, so right, they were actually for the packaging where we help a lot. They relocated more than 15 people, so there was a lot of manual process. So people walking in the facility to go from picking to then auto boxing. So we bridged the gap between two, let's call them semi-automated process, and with our conveyors we bridge that gap. So those 15 people were just relocated to more high value process, and they were able to scale that way. I think they close to double their volume, so they increase their throughput while maintaining their flexibility of their operations. So they did not, how I could stage that, they did not overcommit to a rigid solution from the get-go. But we planned on a nice long-term automation systems to relocate those 15 operators as well.
Got it. And then question for you, kind of following up on, they had this goal or concept in mind of what they wanted to achieve, and then they come to us. What was that conversation like? And Matt, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in too, but what did that process look like in terms of scoping their solution, understanding, pointing them in the right direction, then ultimately getting them something on digital design that they can look at and review?
Yeah, it was a really collaborative process right from the start, right from the beginning. So we worked closely with their team to understand the flow and pinpoint where the real constraints were. So they were really knowledgeable people, and they came with numbers of orders to fulfill, with totes also to convey. So we just started based out of those order and cycle time we needed to reach. If I'm digging more into the technicals, but I'll leave that to Matt. So this process, this collaborative process, and also iterative process we have with our solution architect and application engineer, it was very fun to do with this customer. But instead of jumping straight into a large fixed systems, we try to focus on a modular approach where they could deploy quickly and scale over time, which is what we're actually doing. And at the end of the day, we didn't just sell them equipment, we helped them build a roadmap to reach their fulfillment goals, their orders goal. So the speed to value was just as important as the solution itself, if I could say.
Got it. And do you know roughly how long, like from that conversation and then understanding what they were trying to achieve to then getting a design going that they could look at? Was that like a few weeks, or how long was that?
Yeah, if I speak timeline, I think within the first week, we had a first rough concept in Machine Builder. So we could review and iterate on this first draft. And then within 3 to 4 weeks, there was already people at their site deploying the solution. So within 2 to 3 weeks, we had a final concept ordered, and then boots on the ground in 4 weeks.
If I may, the concept of final concept is sort of flawed, right? Because as we know, this was a design and build approach to a turnkey project, right? They were constrained by their commitment of Tour de France, and consequently, we had to make it due in 6 weeks. Couldn't afford to design and then go for bid and then find somebody to build the whole thing. We were designing and building simultaneously. The reason why we can do this is a little bit shown on screen here. We design projects from our library of products, meaning that within a few days after having contacted you, Will, and having confirmed that we do have the technology to make them successful, we started designing in 3D in Machine Builder. We can do this extremely fast because we build solutions from our library of products. What we see on screen is conveyors, but if you look at further details, there's some structural, some chutes, some controllers, push buttons, e-stop, the whole thing. We can construct it extremely quickly, even before committing to a PO. Consequently, we can grow the solution as we design it with the client, and eventually start committing on sending boots on the ground and building the equipment as it still gets scoped. So that's how we came about to start the activity in putting steel and aluminum on their shop floor and boots on the ground.
Got it. Thanks, Matt. And maybe that's I was going to ask you next, maybe to walk through from a more technical perspective, what was the solution? What were some of the challenges that you and your team saw? I think you already alluded to one being the timeline, that they were trying to get this in before Tour de France kind of order surge was coming in. But yeah, if you want to walk through just kind of the solution here and some of the things your team thought about, that'd be very interesting to people.
Right. Let's take a moment to just describe briefly what this is. What we see on screen, right? It's a bunch of conveyors, yes, but the purpose is to build the orders. So on the right side, you have the in-feed of products, and on the left side, on the Vention conveyors, you see the customer orders that are being built to be then sent automatically to a packaging machine so that it can get shipped. So the white totes are brought to operators who build the order into the empty white totes and send them back filled for packaging. 7 stations, I believe, in this solution are present. And I'm happy to say that January 2026, which is 4 months ago, we've already gone through the first major phase of upgrade of the system. So modularity here is absolutely one of the main topics. So that's the solution. And just let me pinpoint what's Vention about it. I alluded to obviously the structural part. Everything you see there is Vention, right? So the structural that holds the conveyors, but also the conveyors themselves are Vention conveyors. So we have built finger safe poly V belt for heavy duty conveyors for the heavier full boxes. And we have also built O-ring conveyors for lesser duty payloads. This is a combination of both. But where there's truly a major difference is all of the motors, all of the controls, all of the safety components, all of the sensors are all plug and play. I earlier said that we design projects from our products, and it includes the automation and controls components. So my application engineers, our mechanical engineers building solutions like this on the fly, including the electrical engineering, they do this in Machine Builder, and all you see on screen is Vention stuff.
Got it. With the plug and play capability, this question probably for you, Matt. You come from the world of integration. I think I've heard you say before, nothing or very rarely do projects go 100% as planned. There's always some little surprise when you're on site. Can you give an example? It doesn't need to be at the feed, but where that make it a little bit more concrete. Can you think of any examples where the modularity really comes into play?
100%. Well, I said this specific project was a design and build approach, meaning that the scope was deliberately increasing as we were developing. Quickly after the PO, about 4 weeks, we put aluminum on the floor at the feed and boots on the ground to start building it. However, the scope itself wasn't even 100% clear. So we started to install what was very unlikely to change, and changes occurred as in many operator-driven solutions. Right, there are humans operating with the machine. Line balancing is very hard to plan because it depends on people doing their job. So how do we balance which lines we send totes to was something that was constantly evolving based on humans were affecting it. Consequently, physical design, how it's designed, and how it's programmed. Where do we put eye-level sensors, low-level sensors? Which buttons do we make available for the operators? Which signals, light signals, do we make available for operators to know that they are a bottleneck on the line? Or all things that evolved as we were building. Consequently, having parts on stock, having an environment to program the solution that is easy to use, easy to simulate. If you go back to the slide, I think 5 or 6, where you see the simulation.
Yep.
Yeah, that one. It's literally how we work. We simulate the changes in the programs. We can push the buttons virtually in the digital twin to see the impacts of the programming changes. And we achieved that by putting parts on the floor at the feed, 6 of the 7 stations, and we kept a 7th station in our commissioning facility in Montreal in order for us to have also a physical twin to replicate the actual behaviors on site until we came to completion of the solution and shipped the 7th one to complete the project.
Got it. And you talked a little bit about being on site and the commissioning process. I was showing this slide, just a diagram. Well, maybe one question, part one of the question is, what is this diagram people are looking at? How does our team use this, or how does this help the client? And then 2 is the picture on the right. I see a kind of industrial PC looking box. Maybe what is the value of using something like the controller versus the traditional approach of PLC? So 2 parts to the question.
Yeah. Well, on the left side, that's the evolution. This is what the feed came back this year to upgrade their system, came back to Vention to upgrade their system. On the initial solution, we saw AMRs bringing totes to the operator stations individually. They've decided to automate this with a large loop of conveyors to bring the product to the operators so that they can bill their orders. So it's essentially we've doubled the amount of conveyors. Again, in a very similar fashion, contract established in January, and parts are already there since March. In fact, the build has begun. What you see on the left is the HMI. I speak a lot of the controls being Vention controls, and that's the industrial PC that you see on the right side. That's Machine Motion AI. It's literally a picture of the installation in our commissioning department of one of the stations. That's our controller. It's got it's got an IPC in it. That's how we program things. It's got a safety PLC in it. It's got power distribution in it. And we connect it to our own pendant, a Vention pendant, which acts as the HMI. And that's what we see on the left side. This is the HMI that we've specifically designed for the feed phase 2 in order for them to operate their quite complex system and know the health status of everything dynamically. So part of our turnkey project, we do the install, we do the programming, the safety, and the HMI, all of which within a couple of weeks.
Got it. And then what is the value, like what if we were to compare PLC approach side by side to the machine motion approach, what's kind of the takeaway for people looking to deploy conveyor systems like we showed with the feed?
Well, I love this image because it makes it relatively tangible to understand what machine motion AI is. It's our controller, as I just described, and it's off the shelf. If I want one tomorrow, I can just ask Vention and get one tomorrow. You can program this in a no-code environment called Machine Logic or in Python, none of which are a black box, right? You can just program it as you want. And it's got a safety PLC, so all of the safety components, as we see on the right side, with the e-stop and the pendant. and its power distribution. In the cases of conveyor, up to 32 motors can be powered by one machine motion. In the case of the feed, I think there's 7 or 8 machine motions to power the whole thing. Again, all of which are identical. They're all the same machine motion part, off the shelf and available. So basically, this image shows the comparison with traditional automation on the left side, where you have an electrical engineer build the designs for the control panel for controls, safety, and power distribution, and you get the panel built, which is in of itself making it impossible to deliver a conveyor project in 6 weeks. And that's how we can do it in 6 weeks. Those parts are off the shelf.
Got it. Awesome. I want to get back into bring both Will back in, Matt, if you guys have any general advice you want to share, things you learned along the way from this project. But before we do that, we do have a really good video here of just walking through what the story was with the feed and some of the results they saw. So I'm going to bring this on screen. I checked earlier, the audio should work, but if for any reason it is not, let us know in the Q&A, and then I'll stop it and I'll send out the link afterwards, but it should work here. So let's see.
Matt Johnson, CEO of The Feed. We're the largest online marketplace for sports nutrition for endurance athletes in the world. Now we have over 5,000 products and ship 4,000 to 5,000 orders a day. We reached our limit of what we could do from a manual picking standpoint probably over a year ago, but it took us a while to get all the systems in place. And so we had 2 automation systems that we knew were the right fit for us, but we needed to connect those 2 systems together. And we spoke to all the traditional conveyor companies, and everything was about how we could change our process to meet what their capabilities were when we already knew what we wanted our process to be. So as soon as we spoke to Vention, then they said, yeah, we'll build our system to how you need it to work, and we'll build it in 6 weeks. And it was a very easy decision. Our team started with the machine builder to build out our prototype, or sort of proof of concept idea, which was excellent. And it really gave us the peace of mind that we knew what we were doing. We were going to get a solution that met our needs. And we knew this was, basically automation Lego that we can take apart and click back together any way we want. The savings for us is really in labor and capacity. So we can run about 600 orders an hour through this system. The ROI, I can tell you, is significant because we actually operated for the first 2 weeks here without the conveyor system. And I would say we were running 15 additional staff just managing the process of what the conveyor has replaced. I think the delivery timeline was spectacular. There's no one in the industry that was anywhere close to it. I don't mean like they were twice as fast. I think Vention's was literally at least 6 to 8 times faster than anyone else. We were getting quotes of up to 40 weeks for delivery of a system. And Vention had it fully operational from contract to inside operating in 6 weeks. Not just saying we've delivered the solution, really focused on delaying our acceptance testing until everything was perfect, well beyond any other vendor I've seen who want to get in and get out. They said, listen, we're going to stay here until this thing is perfect. And they have, and that's why we'll be back as a future customer.
All right, let me change the view so we can see you guys again. All right. I think that kind of summed it up. I mean, we have plenty of time for Q&A. Want to get to that and answer some questions. But first, Will or Matt, whoever wants to go first, kind of taking a step back, what would be your advice for, someone who has a project like this or similar, and they're, what's the one thing you would tell them to make sure they're successful in their project?
Yeah, I can take that one, and I can even go a step back and piggyback from what Matt mentioned about deployment and commissioning, because it's tied to the results after. So I think one of the big advantage, and I won't quote Matt Johnson again from the feed, but one of the big advantage was the speed and simplicity first, because like we mentioned a couple times, the system is modular, the deployment was fast and didn't require disruptions to their operations. So we were able to install and get them up and running quickly while supporting the team through the transition. So this really helped the team to understand what they were operating at the end of the day. They needed to understand our system, the conveyor system. And I think the goal is always the same. We try to get value in production as fast as possible. And we did it in not months, maybe like other quoted, but weeks. And to come back to your questions about what were the results, and Matt, again, Matt Johnson replied this really well. The results were very tangible because they improved the throughput, so the number of orders per day, as you mentioned, reduced the manual handling. With the 15 operators I mentioned, they were able to relocate or have more value-added operations, and that created a much smoother flow across their fulfillment process. So the biggest win to me that I see is now that they have a system that scales with them, which is what we're doing in phase 2, like Matt Desmarais explained. And now they're not just reacting to the volume increase; they're ready for it. They can expect this volume and fulfill this volume really well. So it's not just efficiency; it's really operational confidence, if I can say.
If I can abstract this a little bit more, I think what's key in such projects is to select the right partner. In this case, a design and build approach, you want a partner that I like to say is a single neck to choke. Somebody that has control over the selection of the hardware, of the people, of the solution, in order to be able to design, build, adjust, support for the whole duration of the project, but also the total lifetime of the equipment. Today, in April, we are retrofitting what we have delivered to the feed into a generation 2 of the solution. And that's because we're one neck to choke. In this case, I believe it makes Vention the good partner for what they had to do. So that's my recommendation. Pick the right partner that has control over what's going to be important in the design and construction of your automation solution.
Got it. Good advice, Matt. And yeah, it's really the full stack. I mean, we skipped over this slide earlier, but we have some pictures of how we even assemble and test these. Our team that designed it is also the team building it, testing it, shipping it out, doing the on-site with you. So it's the full, like you said, one team, one partner.
Correct. Top left picture is actually the generation 2 of the feed. Top right is a case packer with the CRX robot. All types of projects that are turnkey from Vention direct to customer.
Yep. All right, I'm going to move forward. We have one more slide. I just wanted to give an overview, more kind of tangible, of what our Vention ecosystem is. This is the one sales pitch slide. That's it, but more informational. I'm not going to pitch it that hard, but just want to show what we have to offer and then hand it over and open it up to everyone for Q&A. So, you know, in a nutshell, this is the conveyor ecosystem at Vention. It's plug and play industrial. What it enables really is custom designs, like you saw with the feed, at very fast lead times and very fast time to value. And as we mentioned as well, the ability to evolve as your needs grow. We can grow with you and change things pretty easily. The building blocks available in our platform are roller conveyors, O-ring and poly B, belt and timing belt and belt conveyors, motors, transfers, sensors, and then the machine motion control, as we went over earlier. In the top right, you can see the specs and capabilities as a summary, but you don't need to memorize that. Our team will help you find the right solution or even design it for you, so don't worry about that. And if I highlight what's new, and everyone on this call is getting a sneak peek of what we're about to announce in a couple weeks, but we've got new conveyor expansion offering with new widths, new configurations that can help us tackle even different layouts and different projects based on your needs. We've got new motors launching as well. for higher cost efficiency and just simplified architecture that our solutions architects can design things in a simpler way, and then expanded capabilities with partners like FlowSort for transfers, and that enables us taking on more complex routing and logistics projects beyond just simple linear transportation. So in a nutshell, that's our ecosystem. We're super excited. We see a lot of opportunity. We know, robotic automation is growing through the roof right now, but conveyors is one of the early entry points into that, and people need a lot of conveyors as well. So let's wrap it up and get into Q&A. I see some questions coming in. Also, shout out to, looks like there's a high school class dialed in watching this webinar from Texas. I used to live in Austin, so shout out to Texas. Phil and his class, thank you guys for joining us. I'll move on to a question. And by the way, I see, will someone from Vention be willing to chat with our team? Yes, absolutely. I'll follow up with you on that, Philip. Does Vention from Sola, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but Sola O, does Vention recommend what a preventative maintenance program should look like on a project like this?
Absolutely. Part of our it's part of our product spec sheets, but also it is deliverables that we can provide with turnkey projects, preventative maintenance documentation, recommendation of spare parts, operations manuals, everything that's needed for the post commissioning or utilization put in production of the line. So yeah, it's absolutely part of our deliverables for turnkey projects.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Another question from Nick. Are there options for other sensor companies? Sometimes clients have preferences that are beyond our control.
By default, we want to play nice with others. Consequently, it is not impossible. The person asking the question, Nick, probably saw that we have a Keyence sensor on our projects. And the reason why we do so is that we have all the wiring ready for it so that it is plug and play, and we have it stock. In order to have such a complex solution delivered in a matter of weeks and not months, some decisions must be taken, and one of which is to maybe stray away from the initial standards. We could play the card of the traditional integrator and adopt different motors, different sensors, different buttons, but then we'd be as slow as the other guys. Consequently, we can play nice with other components. However, if you want your solution to be delivered in the kind of schedule we talked about, we'd rather not.
Got it. Thanks, Matt. Question from Michael S. What information do you actually need upfront to properly scope a conveyor system like this?
Well, not a lot. Meaning, meaning that our design process, the application engineers that will put in contact, will introduce into the project pre-sales, we'll be designing real time. Obviously, we need layouts, we need payloads, we need dimensions, and we'll get to designing the solution in 3D in Machine Builder pre-sales. Ultimately, our desire is that when a purchase order is emitted, north of 90% of the design is complete in 3D and the bill of material is complete. In fact, when we design stuff, you can actually literally see the price of the solution evolve on the top right side of the Machine Builder designs. So we don't need a lot. It's going to go faster if you have all the information, but it's a pleasure to collaborate with the client in order to define the requirements and the constraints while we design the solution.
Got it. Thanks, Matt. Question from David M. What in-house expertise do I need to operate this equipment, if any?
Well, this specific project is a turnkey project. Our deliverable is completely coded, tested, Consequently, the level of expertise is a maintenance expertise to follow the preventative maintenance recommendations we talked about earlier. Operator expertise. So we provide the HMI that is operator. It's designed towards being used by the various operators. In this case, they don't need anybody to code. They don't need anybody to connect into the programming. However, if they did want to have that expertise, they could have Python software engineers or technicians. Python is a readily available programming environment, and that's how they would modify the code. However, in the case of the feed, they can also just call us through. Do they have remote support, Will?
Yes. Yeah. So they can access us to remote support.
What's remote support, Will?
Yeah. So remote support, it's neat because it's connected to our machine motion AI as well. And basically, within a 10-minute SLA, you have access to our customer success team. So the customer success team is a full team of integration engineer that basically picks up and troubleshoot the system with you. Either if it's the program hardware issues, we have access to you, and from the teach pendant where everything is run, the full system, the UI is on our Vention teach pendant connected to our control. And you have a camera in the front, camera in the back, so this makes it easy to just FaceTime and troubleshoot the system that way. So this is what remote support includes.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. More questions coming in. Thank you all for submitting your questions. We still have some time for more. So another question from Nick, who asked earlier, but a new question this time. Do you guys build and stock some of the conveyors in-house at Vention? I noticed Vention they're Vention branded, which make it seems like you have control over the process instead of relying on a vendor.
100%. 100%. Everything you see there is Vention components, which we have stock. Let's be specific, Nick. The structural is aluminum extrusion, so modular. That's why we can do dual shelf conveyors there easily. All of the drives for either the poly V belt or the O-ring are steel, but Vention designed and stock steel components. Obviously, we buy the rollers from Mr. Roller somewhere. We don't design those, right? But we have everything in stock. Consequently, if today you need 50 feet of conveyor for next week, it is actually possible for us to deliver.
Yep. Thank you. Let's see. I might pronounce this person's name wrong, so I apologize, but I'm going to say Vinny R. Very nice project. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing. How does it integrate with something like a warehouse management system?
Right. So the controls are running on machine motion AI. Right. That's the brain of the solution, which is an IPC that can play nice with any other systems. In the case of a SCADA system or an MES, we would have various exchanges, whether using the Ethernet network capabilities, Ethernet IP protocol to talk with other layers, or MQTT messaging. We have low-level socket APIs as well. So depending on the MES supplier and what needs to be exchanged, we can make it part of our scope of supply to design and deliver what's needed to talk with your management system. We have an IPC, so we're ready.
Perfect.
IPC, industrial PC, by the way. Just
what was that, Matt?
Oh, I mentioned IPC a couple of times, and I thought it wise to explain what it is.
Yeah, industrial PC.
That's right.
Yep. Let's see. Question from Sergio O. How flexible or easy is it to make layout changes, and what IT infrastructure is needed?
There's no IT infrastructure needed unless we come back to the previous question. There is an MES system. In this case, there is, right? We have some barcode scanning to determine of which station does the tote go to. So there is an IT infrastructure connecting the main control, our main control box, Machine Motion AI, to their plant LAN. But for the machine itself, everything is supplied plug and play by Vention. So all of the control wires, safety wires, power wires, everything is part of the turnkey deliverable from Vention, and all of which are again readily available off the shelf. No flying leads. Everything is M8, M12 connectors, 100%.
This next question kind of bridges. We've been talking about IT infrastructure and Titan, WMS, and cybersecurity. So this one kind of falls into that. So following up on the remote support feature that Vention offers, what cybersecurity levels are in place? Is it possible to have an offline solution? Will, I'm guessing you work with a lot of manufacturers who ask the same question. Maybe they don't want to be connected, they don't want remote support, or they want to ensure that there's security. What options do people have, or what's your answer for that?
Yeah, what I've seen so far, so our motion control for remote support, we need access to the Wi-Fi. So far, Matt, maybe you can help me on that, but I did not see one that was not connected to any network.
Happens a lot. So I think it's a very good question. We should have thought about that, but the machines run without being connected, right? It does not require connection to the cloud. Many users still do not allow connection, such as defense, for instance. So machines run without being connected. If you so choose to have it connected to benefit from the services it allows, such as remote support and other services, you have two options. You either have it literally connected to your plant network, or with our latest version of Machine Motion AI, which we released last year, we can have an LTE connection and literally bypass your plant network. So if you have constraints connecting a physical machine to your plant network, but do have the possibility and the desire to have your machines connected, you can do so with the LTE network on the machine, on Machine Motion AI.
Yep. Thank you. Last question, and then we're actually perfect timing because we're out of time. So one other question came in. And by the way, if anyone does have questions, obviously feel free to reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn, contact us at our website. We'd be happy to help. But the last question here is, does Vention support proof of concept testing for larger or more complex projects, or is validation only addressed through simulation?
Great question. While simulation is great, it's not yet perfect. We're working on it. And proof of concepts are absolutely part of well thought of project design. Consequently, yes, in the event that we do identify collectively some risks we want to isolate and de-risk prior to committing to the larger solution, it's absolutely something we can do. And I'm going to assume this question comes from an engineer, so I'm going to say something that's not very salesy. I'm going to say something engineering. When you're doing R&D, you want to fail as fast as possible. And with Vention and the proof of concept, you can fail pretty quickly because all the parts, even robots, are off the shelf. Control box is off the shelf. Structural is off the shelf. We can build stuff within days and fail fast in an R&D fashion. So I'm totally for proof of concepts.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I want to thank both of our guest speakers, Matt and Will, for joining us, sharing their insights. Shout out to the feed. Great partner to work with. They're awesome. Neil and Matt and those guys over there are great. Anyone on the call, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to look at your project or application, see how we can help or point you in the right direction. So that's it for today, and hope everyone has a great day and great week. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a nice day.